What is going on, my friends? So good to see you guys again. Thank you so much for hanging with me for another video. Today we're talking about something that is near and dear to my heart. It's something that I feel like is a huge struggle for lots of folks when they're trying to jump into their own music scene or the Nashville scene, LA scene, whatever it might be. So I'm really excited to talk with you guys about this today. We're gonna have a good time, but before we get too much further, jump on down, subscribe, and like this video. We're on that road to 1,000 subs, and we are so close. It was like 9:30 the last time I checked. So we are just inching closer and closer every day. Super excited, and I would love to have you guys join me along the way. Head on down and subscribe, and let's jump on into this video. So y'all, today we're talking about how to find gigs, how to jump into your local music scene, whether that be really big or it's really small. It doesn't matter. These things still apply. I've got a short list here, about 5 things with some honorable mentions I'm gonna do at the end, but I'm gonna try to keep this video somewhat short. I'm not about to sit here and act like I'm the most successful musician on the planet, but these are things that I put into practice with my own music career, and I see them paying off big time. So I'm here to share those with you today. Let's do it. So coming in at number 1, surround yourself with the people who are doing the things that you want to be doing. Sounds way easier than it is in reality. I know that for sure. But this is something that I had to do. I had to kind of step outside of my comfort zone. I try to meet people. Guys, I am not the most personable guy out there. I can have a great conversation. I can chat it up with just about anybody. But I'm also a homebody. I like to keep to myself a lot of times, a bit more introverted, you could say. When I first started jumping into the Nashville scene, I had to start trying to meet people just about any way that I could. I was going to jam sessions. I was going to open mics. I was going to writers' rounds, just trying to introduce myself to people and make myself known in this community. I had been playing for some people for writers' rounds. I'd been playing in a band in my hometown, and it was just so different coming into this scene as someone who was actually attempting to make a living doing it. It felt like a really kind of daunting task, and honestly, just a little scary for me. One of those honorable mentions that I said I would do later, but I'm actually going to throw it in right now. Social media, although I don't think it's a great way for people to find you, is a really great way for you to keep up with these people that you're meeting. More times than not, we end up exchanging Instagrams rather than exchanging numbers. And I think that that's a great way for people to be able to see who you are, what you do, other people that you may know in the scene, and it can just kind of drive those connections home a little bit more. I don't think it's the way that you're going to get gigs, but I think it's a great way to sort of solidify yourself within this community, even if it is just online. All that being said, do everything you can to meet those people doing what you want to be doing. Go to their gigs, have conversations with them on their breaks if they seem like they're open to chat. Go to jam sessions, go to writers' rounds, go to open mic nights. Any chance you can to meet and talk with these people, take it. Number 2, people are potential gigs, but they're people first. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. This is something I feel like I've been preaching for the last few years here. It took me a while to understand this for myself, but once I did, I felt like I kind of jumped through a little hurdle. So many of the people who you may be trying to interact with and you may be trying to meet are probably also getting approached by tons and tons of other people all the time. I know from myself now, after being here for a long time, when I meet someone who is brand new to town, they are just so eager to talk about, how do you do this? How do you do that? How did you find this gig? How did you meet this person? And while all those things are fine and none of those questions are bad inherently, the thing that I feel people most often forget about, the person that they're actually talking to and asking all these questions, they're a person. Maybe they don't really feel like talking about those things. Maybe they want to just have a conversation with somebody. Maybe they weren't even looking for a conversation, but you're that person that can step in and you can chat with them about a multitude of different things that may have nothing to do with music, may have nothing to do with gigs, but you're establishing that connection as a person to a person, not a person to a potential gig. While being an amazing musician and being eager to work is so important, I think that these days it's just as important to be able to approach a person, see them for who they are, talk to them about things about their life, understand them, they can start to understand you. I think it's best to maybe put yourself in the shoes of someone who would be looking to hire another player. Would you want to hire a stranger who is a great bass player? Or would you want to hire your friend who is a great bass player? Probably 10 out of 10, we'd be looking to hire our friend who's the great bass player. Put yourself in those shoes, approach a person as a person, get to know them as organically as you possibly can. Don't push anything, don't make it unnatural. It shouldn't be forced. Just get to know the person, and if something comes from it, that's awesome. But if it doesn't, that's totally cool too. So now we kind of make the transition into how do we keep the gigs that we have started to get. So number 3, be on time. I know this feels self-explanatory. I know you've probably heard people say like on time is 5 minutes early. And I think it's probably even a little earlier than that. You would be surprised at how often people lose gigs because they're not on time. They're not punctual. They're not trying to be where they need to be when they need to be there. Over time, whether it be getting to a bus call, whether it be showing up to a rehearsal, showing up to a gig, to sound check, whatever it may be, if you're the person that for whatever reason they are waiting on, everyone's automatically going to have a negative perception of you. It doesn't matter if you're the best guitar player on the planet. It doesn't matter if you're the best drummer on the planet. If you are not on time, if they're sitting there waiting on you to get there, their view of you is going downhill. And we absolutely don't want that. So be there when you need to be there, AKA be there early / on time. Number 4, know the music better than anyone else knows it. So I think the people that are around me can attest to how obsessive I can actually be about learning the music I've been hired to play. I want to give the best impression I possibly can. I want to come in and absolutely nail it. So much of my career has been filling in for other people. I've had to learn a ton of music. It would be so easy for me to not learn it to my absolute best, show up, and them still say like, oh, he was a good fill-in, but I don't really want that to be what's happening. I want to be the person who comes in as a fill-in or whatever it may be, do the gigs, leave, and then them be like, holy crap, that guy crushed it. That's not an ego thing. I usually don't hear much about it after I leave. But I do know that when I get called back to do the same gig in the future, okay, I must have done a good job. The way that I ensure that that happens is I come in knowing the music, frontwards, backwards, sideways, just as well as I possibly can know it. To give you guys an example, it was going on, I think, my 2nd or 3rd year living here. It was the first TMA Fest that I was ever playing. I got hired to play for this artist, and the set list was pretty big. I was just filling in for the usual guy. He couldn't make it for whatever reason. The set list, I think, was like 12 songs, which for 3 gigs is kind of a lot of music. I wasn't just playing guitar. I was going back and forth between electric and acoustic, as well as singing BGVs. For like a month and a half straight, I listened to that music every time I got in my car. Anytime I grabbed my instrument, I was working on those songs. I was listening to the parts. I was really trying to get those BGVs down as best as I could. And then when we went into the rehearsal, which there was only one rehearsal for this, and it was a few hours long, it was so smooth. I personally felt really great about going into that rehearsal and them not having to absolutely micromanage every little thing that I was doing, both from the perspective of me not really liking the micromanaging that I have experienced in other situations, but also in that they felt comfortable right out of the gate. They weren't sitting there thinking like, oh no, like this guy. In turn, now the music director for that, tying it into the earlier part of the video, is a great friend and someone who has thrown other gigs and recording and all that stuff at me. That was just one of those things that helped to really establish a connection that lasted outside of the music, but also for that particular situation made things very easy. When I say know the music better than anyone else, obviously if a bunch of people are playing together all the time, they know what they're going to be doing generally better than you will. But come into that situation as prepared as you possibly can be. you should have a pretty good understanding of what you're doing coming into the situation. And if you don't, hopefully that's more on them than it is on you. But if it's on you, I'm sorry, that's a screw up in my opinion. So be over prepared, know it better than they know it. Number 5. Now this one can be tricky for a lot of folks, honestly, me included, but be flexible. Now again, this is assuming that you've started playing some gigs, you're starting to get to know people. Undoubtedly, things are going to happen during a gig or during a rehearsal or during sound check or whatever it may be that you weren't necessarily planning on. It could be somebody makes a mistake. It could be that, you know, they decide to throw in a song that you haven't done in a while, or they decide to cut a song, or just a multitude of different things. I've been in situations where people don't do so well with that. They get frustrated that things are changing. They kind of panic. They shut down a little bit because, oh, this is not exactly the way that we rehearsed it, or whatever it may be. Things are kind of in this state of ebb and flow when you're on the road as a touring musician, and it's so vital to be a go with the flow kind of person in those situations. Now again, I said before I started this little rant that this is something that's a little tough for me. I love having expectations going into it that are pretty clear cut. And I will say most of my touring experience has been pretty straightforward as far as this is concerned. People are pretty good about giving expectations, especially as you move upward in the touring circuit. But there have still been times in a multitude of different touring situations where plans change, things change. The best thing that you could possibly do, whether it be on the stage or in sound check or in the van or on the bus, is be flexible, go with the flow. A really great way to not get called back for a gig anymore is to be the person who throws a fit because of something not going the way that you thought it was going to go. Now, a couple of honorable mentions here. I talked about this one a little bit earlier. Social media. Now, I don't think social media is a good way to find gigs. I don't think it's a good way for people to find you. I do, however, think that it's a good way to sort of solidify the community that you're trying to establish for yourself in your given music scene. Commenting on posts, replying to stories, making sure that you're kind of staying in the loop with people that are in your local scene. I think social media is a really great tool for that. So at this point, I feel like it's pretty well established that having all the best gear on the planet does not make you the best player on the planet. But that being said, one of the things that can cause a lot of problems is if you have gear that's unreliable. I played for a while with a guy on the road. He was a bass player. His amp was constantly noisy. It went out a few times. Unfortunately, it was like a really common occurrence. After a while, a conversation was had with this guy. Man, you have to get this figured out. It kind of just kept going and kept going and kept going. He got fired. So even though you may not have the money to be able to afford all the crazy nice stuff out there, it doesn't really matter. You need to have stuff that's reliable, that sounds good, not something that's just getting you by, but something that sounds good, that you enjoy playing, and more importantly, that serves whatever the music is that you have been hired to play. So y'all, that's all I got for you. Thank you so much again for hanging out with me for another video. I hope these tips are helpful to you, whether you're establishing your own little music community, trying to start a band, get a gig with an artist or a band or whatever it may be. I hope these things have been really helpful for you and that they would just help you to thrive in your community. So y'all jump down in those comments. Let me know, are there any tips or tricks that you guys have found for helping find gigs, find bands to join, or anything like that? As always, thank you for your time. I appreciate it more than you guys know. Jump on down, subscribe, like this video, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.